So we're going to talk a little bit about how to work with individuals who have sacroiliac joint pain or dysfunction during the asana practice. And the important thing to understand is that the traditional or classical instructions generally, especially in twists, is to root the sitting bones down. So if our sitting bones are here, to root them down and then to stabilize the pelvis and the sacrum so that there's less strain on the pelvis and the sacrum, and then to twist from there so we can start to move through the spine, up through the crown of the head. And there's good reason for this instruction. However, for individuals who have a lot of mobility or too much mobility in their sacroiliac joint, this can present a problem. And the reason it can present a problem is that if you can look at the pelvis here, the sitting bones are pressing firmly down, but if we start to keep the pelvis square or straight and then twist, you'll see now my spine is moving, right? But for people who are very mobile, their sacrum will actually move as well. And their sacrum will always do the opposite movement of the spine. So if my spine is twisting this way to the left, then my sacrum will move and twist to the opposite direction. And if my sitting bones are grounded and I'm not letting my pelvis move with my sacrum, then the sacrum will twist within the joint. It will create sort of a torque or a shearing force that can create a lot of pain and inflammation in the sacroiliac joint. Now, for people who are more stable, this isn't so much of a problem because they don't have a lot of movement anyway. So even if they root the sitting bones, it won't really impact the sacroiliac joint because it's stable. But for those who have instability, every movement in the spine causes a reaction in the sacrum in the opposite direction. And therefore, if we keep our pelvis or pelvic bones very stable, the only thing that can move to counteract the movement in the spine is the sacrum. And this can cause, again, sacroiliac joint problems. So really there are two schools of thought. Do I let my pelvic bones move or do I not let my pelvic bones move? And like I said, the first is a little more classical, kind of Iyengar approach. The second, a little more from my teacher Judith Lassiter, who is also a physical therapist and talks about allowing the pelvis to move in poses. The theory behind that is if we let the pelvis move, then the sacrum doesn't move separate from the pelvis. We're moving everything as a unit, and it takes some strain off the sacroiliac joint. So there's a debate in the yoga world between which to do, to root the sitting bones or to let the pelvis move. And I think that there's a case to be made for both. When we root the sitting bones, there's a definite sense of grounding and lifting and lengthening in the spine. But in my experience, for people who have sacroiliac joint problems, allowing some movement of the pelvis with the sacrum does help relieve the pain in the poses. It can be too harsh otherwise for them. So what we're going to do for the next few moments is really go through a few poses, a few common poses, and different instructions with Leah, who has very mobile sacroiliac joint, and see what feels better. And what I'd like to offer you to do is to give you options, is to say, okay, try it this way and try it this way, and see which one feels better for you. From my experience, from teaching many years of happy back yoga to many different people, I find that allowing some movement is helpful for people with SI joint problems. And so that's what I've been teaching lately. But for very stiff people, people who don't have a lot of movement in the sacroiliac area, it's fine to root the sitting bones down. So again, I think it's always that you need to know your students, you need to know who you're teaching at. There isn't one instruction that fits every person, but it's good to know what to offer different people with different conditions. Okay, so we're gonna work first in Trikonasana, triangle, and Parshvakonasana, extended side angle pose. And we're gonna talk about the movement of the pelvis and show a few options here.